Now we're talking. Okay. So when this plays it back for me, I'll be on one side, you'll be on the other. You know how that looks. All right. It is currently 10:30 p.m. in Ohio, and I'm talking to the madman himself from the Ukraine. Well, he's not from the Ukraine, but
I'm from Wisconsin, baby. Yeah.
that's right. Speaking of Wisconsin, the missus wanted to make sure. Actually, when we was gaming today, she thought that you was in here, so she came in to say thanks, but you weren't here. But now that you're here, on behalf of both of us, we really loved that cheese basket.
It's Christmas.
That
And
stuff was delicious. Three kinds of Wisconsin cheese, two kinds of mustard, smoked sausage, and well, summer sausage, whatever that's called. And what
yep,
else was it? Oh yeah, the cow patties,
yep.
Wisconsin cow patties. Man, that cheese just
People
melted in our mouth. That was delicious.
people in like California and Vermont talk about like how good cheese is there, and that's only because they have never tried Wisconsin cheese. I've been all around the globe right now, and I've tried cheese from France, cheese from Belgium, Vermont, California, Russian cheese, Polish cheese. There's a reason that Wisconsin cheese wins globally in cheese contests every year because it's amazing.
It is
And
amazing. It was. I can't even put it in words. It was just so awesome. So thanks for that. Yeah, you
okay,
asked for the address. I was like, yeah, he's probably going to send a Christmas card. You don't have to do that. You know, you sent a cheese basket. That was amazing. Thanks.
I was going to
It was
send a
great.
bomb.
Okay, Mad Overlord.
Yeah.
This is actually our second little talk. We could call it an interview, but I think I'll start by handing things over to you because we talked about your books, and we can follow up on anything you want. But I asked you to
Well,
have maybe three topics, or heck, just wing it. I don't care. What are we talking about tonight?
since we're like planning on making this like a series, I thought since we're both gamers and we met gaming, it would be a perfect time to talk about what our favorite games are. And this could be favorite board game, favorite RPG, tabletop game, favorite video game, favorite game you play in the yard, like kick the can, favorite game like that guy on what was that old TV show? Kids in the Hall, where like I crush your head, I crush your head.
Oh, I remember
Any
that. Kids in the Hall.
yep,
I used to watch that
any game you
religiously.
want.
That was out of Canada, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I'm there's nobody here.
So you
Anyway,
want to talk favorites, huh? Well, we know what your favorite scarf is. We figured that out
yep.
already.
Um, my favorite Scarface. That's a whole nother topic. Um,
My favorite prop to have near the computer.
yeah. Ta-da. Um, we should do that too. Like we could do like favorite like Star Trek episodes. But anyway, we're getting off topic. Uh, so Trace, what is your favorite game? Favorite games? We can just go back and forth, like your favorite game, my favorite game, yada yada yada.
Like no specific genre or type of game.
Whatever. This is our show, man. Whatever you want.
Hmm. Well, I am a gamer. I know today a lot of people, when they hear the term gamer, they're thinking video games.
Mhm.
Um, that's not that's not what it means to me. Although I do have favorites. My favorite video game, if you're talking about console games, um, I bought a. This is cheesy. I bought a PlayStation 4 simply for the purpose of one specific game, and it was Shadow of War.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, the Middle Earth theme. But yeah, I bought a PlayStation 4 just for that game.
Have you finished it?
Yeah,
Really? Because
yeah.
I've started Shadow because Shadow over Mordor I've played through twice. The first one, but Shadow of War I get about halfway and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's like way too long, and I never finished it.
It is really long. It is really long.
Those some
Yeah,
of those
really good.
Nazgul fights are just ugh.
The smack talk factor. I love how they do the smack talk.
Yeah.
It
it's
encourages
role
me to just
playing.
keep at it because they just tick me off when they kill me. They just tick you off. But that's the idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
worth
my
playing.
favorite
Just
video game as far as consoles.
oh my
Favorite
gosh.
board game?
Yep.
I really can't say a favorite. I have a handful of favorites. I really like WEGS, which is a RPG, but it can very easily be considered a board game depending on how you play it.
Okay.
WEGS Old School. That's one of the Wickman games. Um, Dungeon Crawl Classics, of course. D&D, Old School D&D is a personal fave. Um, Soft spot in my heart for that one. Um, if you're going to play a retro game, if you want the old school feel, but it's a newer system, you
Hmm.
can't go wrong, I don't think, with Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. I love that. It's really rich in detail. It's got that grittiness to it that you would expect from a Robert E. Howard themed game. It's fantastic. I like to describe that one as like if first edition D&D had not went away but just kept growing and evolving, but it didn't go away, I think that's what it would look like.
Oh, really?
Let's see, what other kind of games have I left out? Yeah, the board games was just too tough to answer. There's a few. Just off the top of my head, I like Arkham Horror. I would throw Wegs into that category. You can do that as well.
Arkham Horror is
My
a blast.
personal favorite, I've created a board game, and I don't know if you can see that behind me there. Dial the Dice. But that's a oh, I just love it. Even though it's my game, I just love that. I can play that over and over. Um, it's
We'll have
got
to do.
a RPG feel, but it's a board game. It's strictly a board game. It's not an RPG like board game. It's just a board game with that kind of feel to it.
We'll have to do an episode on it in the
Let's
future.
see. Oh, one of my
Oh,
favorite games in the world. They don't make it anymore. Iron Crown Enterprises used to make it, and have the copy right here. I keep it handy behind me, but you're not going to be seeing it because of that cheesy background. Oh, there we go. If I hold it in front of my face, you'll be able to see it.
okay. What is it?
Merc. Middle Earth role play, or actually Merc. Middle
Yeah.
Earth collectible card games.
I
Yeah,
didn't know they had a card game.
this is the most awesome card game on the planet, in my opinion. It
Okay.
plays like an RPG, but it's a card game.
Okay.
You can have several characters to go on an adventure. They can have hirelings underneath them. They can have factions. They can have allies join them, and they can travel throughout Middle Earth to collect what they call marshaling points or victory points.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to pull
I,
that out once in a while and play. It's a very, very intricate card game. Really cool. Lots of strategy. Awesome.
I have never even known that they made a card game. I remember MERP, Middle Earth Roleplay. That was a lot of fun.
Yes. Same company, ICE, Iron Crown
Yep.
Enterprises.
But I
Yep.
never
They
knew
don't
they
make
made
that
a card.
anymore. Man, it was awesome.
Mhm.
In a nutshell, that's my favorite games without stretching too far to name any more. That's the ones off the top of my head. So let's turn it back around. You must have
Okay.
a favorite. Let's. I'll be a little more orderly with you because I know I rambled a lot. So let's start with card games. Do you like card games? And if so, what's your fave?
I'm not a fan of card games. So if you ask me like my favorite card game, it's probably something like War or Old Maid or like
Okay, okay,
Crazy Eights I love.
okay,
I really don't play a lot of card games.
okay.
For some reason,
Sometimes
it's just
card games can bleed into board games.
yeah.
So, do you have a favorite board game? Do you like board games?
I do love board games. Board games I love. Oh my gosh. You got to go with a classic, Dungeon. I used to play that like all the time.
Ooh.
Uh, Another thing that we used to play like all the time is Talisman.
Oh, I love
Talisman.
Talon.
Yeah,
I've
we
got
used to.
that one. So do one
Yep.
expansion I don't have.
Mhm. What's that? Which?
I can't remember. I'd have to look at them side by side, but there's only one that I still need. I love Talisman.
But yeah, we used to play. Even like when I went back to the States. Uh, Not this. Yeah, I think it was this New Year's. We dragged out Talisman and we played a game. I made like spicy Chinese like food for everybody, and we sat down and we played Talisman, and it was a blast. It was like reliving my youth. So like that, those are probably my favorite two. Obviously, like Arkham Horror, I really love. Dominion. Do you know Dominion?
Oh, I've had my eye on Dominion many times, but I've never got
Oh
to
my
play it.
gosh. You need to
Looks
get it. It
awesome.
is it is okay, Dominion is a card game.
Really?
And yeah, and it's actually the only card game that I really enjoy. And it's indescribable. You need basically you're trying to build a Dominion. Um and it's indescribable. You'll have to pick it up. I recommend it. Anyone watching this, go buy Dominion. Buy like 10 copies. And I don't even own the company or anything, so that's just a plug for whoever's made it. Um, so that's board games, obviously for RPGs or like tabletop. Um, I'm a big fan of, the Moldve Basic. Um, I know a lot of people will get mad at this, but the Moldve Basic was all three books in like 50 pages, and now like you need like stacks and stacks of stuff. And I really like rules light games. Um, if playing a tabletop RPG makes me feel like I'm doing my taxes, I don't think that's fun. So I really like rules light stuff where you're like, we do this, bim bam boom. What are we gonna do? We do this, bim bam boom. Not, oh, I need to look up the spell for 10 hours. Oh, now I need to look up this rule for 10 hours. And it's like, forget that. That's not fun for me. Um, Another one we just played like last night. I got into a game with Jim Ward. Gamma World. Oh my gosh, I love Gamma World. I probably love Gamma World more than D&D. I used to make tons and tons of maps for Gamma World, but nobody ever wanted to play it. Everybody always wanted to play D&D. It was kind of our go-to game. So, but I love Gamma World so much that I would just make stuff for it, even though nobody played it. So, love Gamma World. Other RPGs. Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics I really like. Except for one thing. We can actually do a whole episode on this. Luck as a stat. I cannot stand luck as a stat. Oh,
Hey, you clicked out for a minute. The last thing we heard from you was you like it except for one thing.
okay. I like Dungeon Crawl Classics, Mutant Crawl Classics, except for one thing. Luck as a stat. I hate luck as a stat. Why do you need luck as a stat? You'd roll a dice. That's your luck right there. If you roll bad, you already have bad luck. Why do you need a stat for that? So I cannot stand luck as a stat.
I see your
Um,
point.
but I do
I see it
think the
well,
rules are
Colson.
fantastic. Oh, what?
Oh, I was just saying, I see your point.
Man. And because I'm a mad overlord and I'm right. um, so I've never played. I bought it and I read through part of it because the book is like this thick. Is Astonishing Swordsman. I always wanted to run a game or play in a game of that and see what it's like because I read through it, but I've never like run it. So
Yeah,
I I
yeah,
will take your recommendation on Astonishing Swordsman of Hyperborea
yeah.
because
That's how I describe it to people when they ask about it or when I'm describing the Hyperborea, Astonishing Swordsman. Is that if you've ever run or played a first edition
Mhm,
D&D, then the learning curve is minimal. It's next to
mhm.
nothing. It's so similar. It's unbelievable. It's just that it's expanded on, gives you more classes. Um, it's just so similar. It's unbelievable. So yeah,
Yeah.
the learning curve is minimal. It's got that gritty realism to it. It just feels good. It feels like dark, old school Coney fantasy. It's got the feel for sure. They did a great job on that.
Geez, next time I'm in the States, I'll have to come down to Ohio and we'll have to like play a game because I really want to.
Yeah.
Because I would love to get into a game of
Astonishing
that.
Swordsman is so full of testosterone. you
But
will you will want to go out and
if you go on places like
slay some.
Roll20, you can find games of Dungeon Crawl Classics and stuff, but
Mhm.
nobody's running a game of Astonishing Swordsman. So I'm like,
Hmm.
hmm. And for video games, I love a lot of the classics. I just got a game called it's not even been out for 24 hours. It's called Nox Anarchist, and it's basically an old school game that it's actually run on an Apple II emulator. And right now it's like so much fun. It brings me back to the days of my youth when we used to play like Bard's Tale and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. I also like a lot of building games, like Minecraft. I still play every once in a while because I don't know. For me, after like a day of work, I find it fun just to like build something. I don't know, because I can't build anything in real life like you, I have to do it in a video game.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, we're both crafters in a different sense.
Yeah. Because everybody, I think like all guys have that kind of like building survival instinct. We like to burn stuff and, you know, that's why we play role-playing games because we all want to like burn down villages and take everybody's stuff.
Yeah, that's actually was talking about Astonishing Swordsman. There's your solution for the murder hobos.
Yeah.
Just send them to play some Astonishing Swordsman. Perfect.
Yeah. I think this you'll probably get a lot of flack on this, but I think all players are in some way murder hobos because while a good role-playing session is fun, like I said, Uh, in this Gamma World game, I'm basically like a 7 foot tall Venus flytrap with like a uh, giant flytrap for a head, 5 foot wide head, and I'm just a bunch of tendrils for a body with like a Clint Eastwood poncho and like pistols on his belt. And it's fun to role play him. Basically, when he like heals, he after he kills somebody, he eats it, and then he basically talks with his mouth full, and occasionally, like cowboys will occasionally like spit tobacco. He'll occasionally spit out like a boot or like somebody's like bulletproof vest or something that they couldn't devour, and it's fun to role play. But that said, just killing stuff and taking their loot is just some weird level of satisfaction in our monkey brain because it's fun. I mean, my gosh. Anyway, there's my ramble. Ta-da!
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. We've this is the second year of no Gary Con, no physical Gary Con.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll happen heaven forbid it would happen a third year?
I don't know. To be honest, since we got our game going and I'm thinking about getting like a second game going, I want to get a Gamma World game going. Since we're playing online anyway, do we really this sorry people who love Gary Kahn and go to conventions, but do we really need conventions anymore? Kind of like the movie industry. Everybody watches movies at home on Netflix. Can the
Mm.
movie industry really recover after this?
Well, I miss and I want conventions. However, we can't have them right now.
Yeah.
So, hopefully they won't die off.
Okay. I'm just wondering, this isn't like I want them or I don't want them. I'm just wondering if they'll ever come back. Or if they
Yeah.
do come back, they'll be I can see like a lot of smaller conventions like dying off because with stuff like this, why would I want to go pay for a hotel, pay for the thing, pay for when I can play online with everybody for free? I mean, obviously you get to see people like face to face, which will never, never be unmatched, if that's like a correct way to say that. But looking at it logically, because I'm a mad overlord, logically, I wonder if a lot of smaller conventions will die off because go on Roll 20 or Fantasy Grounds or whatever, gather some friends, play a game. Right now, since Gary Con is going to be online anyway this year, and they had that. What was the one the Gary Con in fall called?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, they had like another thing in fall that they ran. But
Oh,
it's
yeah, I know what you mean. I can't think of what it was called though.
yeah, but it's another
I don't keep
online
track
game.
of them because I don't do the. I can't stand online gaming.
Yeah.
Um, as you know, I do game online on
Mhm.
occasion, but yeah, well, I mean, when given the choice, it's just I have to get used to it though because that's what we have now. You know.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, because obviously I like face-to-face gaming too. Like all your friends come over and blah blah blah. But the reality part in me, so my heart says online or face-to-face gaming is great, but my brain tells me, so if people have to get a babysitter, and then if you have to pay for the hotel and pay for the gas and pay for the food and blah blah blah, when we do it like online, you could just order pizza and or like make a cheese. If you're doing it on the cheap, you could just make like mac and cheese or a cheese sandwich or something, and you don't have the hassle, and you don't have like, oh my gosh, the hotel screwed up my room. Oh my gosh, the convention got hit by a nuclear bomb or something or whatever. So I don't know. I think the world of conventions are definitely going to change after this. Will conventions go away completely? No, but the sad thing is, and I'm rambling, so deal with it. Um, this really hurts the little guy. So the big conventions like Gen Con and Gary Con, which are kind of corporate, they'll still be around. But the little guy, like there's one in northern Wisconsin. It's a convention with maybe 100, 200 people. Will they be able to survive after this? We'll have to see. And knowing is half the battle.
I reckon.
Yeah. So there you go. Isn't that cheerful, kids? Thanks for tuning in. Woohoo!
Yeah, man, you're a Debbie Downer. Hey,
Well,
we're talking about things that are real that all the gamers out there are
yeah,
thinking about and having to deal with.
yeah. I mean, so anyway, games we played, games we liked. Let's go back to that.
See, you're not even unique anymore with your mad scientist scarf because people's going to see this video and just think that you're wearing your mask.
Dun, 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 dun. Well, that's an interesting topic. So Mad Overlord has been around for like 20 years. I originally came up with like Mad Overlord in college. We had to design our own because being an art student, I graduated BA in graphic design, and we had to
Really?
design our own company. Yeah, and so the company I designed was Mad Overlord Studios. In fact, like next time, I still have my original business cards. I'll have to drag them out next time. And so I came up with Mad Overlord Studios. As you can see, my mustache is half white for some reason. It's always grown in half white. And if you watch Mystery Science Theater 3000, Dr. Clayton Forrester has that like white patch in his mustache. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally identify with Dr. Clayton Forrester. And this was like back in like the early 90s when I started watching the show. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a mad scientist. So I fell in love with like mad scientists. And because I'm old kids. And so that's where it came about. That's where like Mad Overlord. And so I told you that story to tell you this one. So the reason I wear the scarf is when I started doing videos, um, the first ones I did, the phone, I used my phone as like the camera to record them. And the sound was just awful. It was just god awful. And so what I did is, so I record everything first. So I record all the sound and all the like sound bites, and then I'm giving away my secrets here. Oh no. So I wear the scarf. So if you watch me in the videos with the scarf, my mouth doesn't actually move. So I sit there and I
That's a
pantomime.
great idea.
Well, it's because, so I want to say it's because it's a clever kind of, oh, ha ha ha. But the gimmick came around because I technically screwed up. So that's why I wear the scarf, kids. And plus, like a lot of evil mad scientists had like the scarf or some kind of mouth covering anyway. So isn't that a great story? Merry Christmas, everyone.
It is. It is. Well, when I do my craft videos, I kind of do something similar to that. But what I do is, you'll notice if you've ever watched a few of them, you may notice that in some of them, I don't have any FaceTime at all. I'll just show my
Yeah,
hands, and those are the ones that are the most fun to do, and they're the most interesting to watch actually because I'll just do the craft and my hands will be doing whatever, and then later I'll just go in and throw in the sound, and that's
yeah,
usually when
yeah,
I'm inspired to throw in the cheesy jokes and stuff.
yeah.
So
Because
whereas if I'm on the camera, I'm getting FaceTime, those videos are a lot more boring because, I'm just trying to maintain some sort of professionalism or not seem too shoddy. But
professionalism with us? Oh my gosh,
right,
Tracy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What? But yeah, so what else can we talk
Graphic
about?
design? I never knew that.
Yeah, that's what I originally went for. But for those who don't know, I work in the game industry, and so when I moved to China to like, work in the game industry, I started writing, and that's where I really found out that I have a real like skill for writing. Um, and that's like a whole nother that could be like a whole nother video. So we won't talk about that too much. But yeah, so I originally went for graphic design because when I was a kid, I used to draw like all the time. And one of the big jokes that only graphic designers will understand is there's no real design in graphic design. Basically, you do like page layout, and it's boring. It is a boring, boring job. What else can we
It
talk about?
sounds like fun. Graphic
Oh
graphic
my,
designers. So graphic designers would know how to use Adobe Illustrator and all those cool programs that people like me can't figure out.
but it's so not fun because basically, so you'll have like a picture where it'll be like a ship, and there'll be like water and clouds and sky and stuff for like a travel magazine, and they'll be like, oh, could you put some more blue in the water, make the water more blue? Oh, can you like take some of the, and then you do that, and then you send it back, and then the customer's like, can you take some of the blue out and make the sky more blue? Okay, and then you do that, and they're like, oh, now could you make the water as blue as the sky? And then you do that, and then like, oh, could you make the sky less blue? And you're like, oh my gosh. And sometimes you go like 20, like it's called a round. It's like it goes from like you to the customer and back to you. That's called a round. And sometimes it would go through like 20 rounds. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to kill myself. So as much as I like love doing graphic design, I'm glad I don't do it anymore because customers are dumb. Everyone says the customer is always right. For those of us those of us who've done graphic design know customers are dumb.
That's horrible. What a horrible
It
thing to
is.
say.
That's one of the reasons it drove me mad. Ooh.
Well, you could always be a stunt double for Corella Deville.
Dun, 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 dun. Wah.
I'm sure you've never heard that one before.
I haven't. I've never heard that. I don't get
Hey,
compared to
cool.
Corella Deville too much.
I've got an
Um,
original on there.
Most people when they see me like this compare me to like either who's the villain in Sonic? I don't know Sonic that well.
Oh,
Or
Dr.
like
Robotnik.
yeah, or like
Yes.
Dr. Octopus, they call me. But it's cool because all of them are evil. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with evil.
Well, I suppose so. No, so you don't graphic design anymore, but
Nope.
you currently work in the video game industry.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you're not graphic designing?
Mostly I write. I write stories for games. Um, yeah, that's what I do mostly. I used to do a little like game design as well, but in recent years, I've switched almost completely over to writing. I
Well, that
write.
sounds interesting. Now, how does that work? Do they come to you and say, "Hey, this game does we're doing this in the game. We need you to come up with a story that explains it"?
Yeah. So I write the stories. I do a lot of like non-fun stuff, like when you design a user interface, somebody has to write all the text that's like, so this button does this, and they'll give you the description. And so you have to come up with like for terms for the buttons in the user interface, but you only have like maybe 10 letters. So you have to come up with a word that describes, they'll give you like a sentence of text and say, describe this in one word. And so, yeah. So it's not all fun. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, you make video games. That must be so much fun. It's like, there's good and bad days like any job.
Well, that's cool. So you're living in Ukraine, but working for the Chinese game company.
Yep, yep, yep. Actually, I'm looking at a few like Ukraine game companies recently, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyway, we're talking more about me. We don't want to talk about me. We want to talk about, let's see, when you were a young Tracy,
Ah,
so like a week ago, what kind of other games did you play? Like, what were your go-to games when you started playing RPGs?
when I started playing RPGs, um, I started with the box set, first edition. Let's see, how old was I? I think I might have been I'm thinking I was in second or third grade,
Are you
but I
talking
won
about
a
the?
poetry contest. I'm a little
Are you
foggy now. It was either poetry or like art.
the Frank Menzer box set?
Um, no, it was before the red box set. I think it was purple.
Yeah, the Moldvay
There you go. There you go.
with
That
the
was
Arrow
my first
Otis cover.
exposure. Well, I won this contest at school, and the prize was you go to the radio station and pick out your prize. You didn't know what the prize was. They just said, come down and get your prize. So, this was back in the 70s, or actually by then it would have been the early 80s, I think. But anyway, so my dad drove me one weekend to Portsmouth, Ohio, to the radio station. And back then I thought that was such a big city. But anyway, we went up there, and I remember going in this room, and they opened it up, and there's all these toys. There was just everything. There was sports equipment, stuffed animals, board games. There was all these cool things. But the freakish kid that I was, the thing that caught my attention was this strange little thin box that was just all by itself over here, and that's what it was. It was the purple box D&D,
Oh, that's a
and
cool
I
story.
got that. And I took it home, and it was years before I figured out what the heck to do with any of that. Nobody I knew played. Uh, it was basically I played with the dice, and I looked at the cool pictures. That's pretty much
Okay.
the extent of what I did for many years. And then later on, I actually met people that played, and by then, second edition had rolled around. So, long story short, that was my exposure to role playing games.
Wow. There you go. You heard it here first, kids. Wasn't that great? So you have like 140 episodes in Dungeon and Coffee, and you never told your how I got into D&D story. But
Well, in those episodes, I'm usually either highlighting something that my friends are pushing, because I take pride. I tend to be like a support character. If I was in a movie, I'd be the support character. So yeah, that's kind of my typical role in things. Is not much of the spotlight. But yeah, in those videos, I usually just talk about the crafts or whatever. Once in a while, I'll have like an opinion piece, but
how did you start building stuff? How did you start taking Pringles cans and making them into towers?
well, that started um, when this was probably in the early 2000s is when I started doing that kind of stuff,
Okay.
and I've always been kind of crafty. Um, But yeah,
That's
I was always a woodworker too. So I was always doing woodwork when I was a kid. Matter of fact, My first official legal job wasn't until I was 18 because when I was a young kid, I learned to use the wood tools in my dad's wood shop. And so as a teenager, that's how I made my money. I would make gun cabinets and, chests and different things for people. I don't know how it was in Wisconsin, but in the 80s, folk art was really popular. There's all these little folk art shops. You could go and buy these little wood things that people had painted up. But that's what I did. And then at some point in the early 2000s, I just started making game terrain, little pieces at first here and there. And I got divorced about 2000, I don't know, 9-ish maybe. Well, during that time, my whole life changed. So instead of the family man with a nice home to go home to at the end of the day, it was just me at an apartment. So it was kind of depressing and lonely. I was a workaholic. But once in a while, I would have time off, and I would just be there by myself. And that's kind of where I really got better at crafting things because I didn't get out much. I just went to work all the time. Once in a while, I might have a day off, and I'd had to do something. So that's how that all started. And then by the time life got back to normal, by then I'd gotten pretty handy with things and developed my own little style and technique. Everybody's got their own thing.
Yeah. For people on like my channel, go check out Dungeons and Coffee. This guy like just takes like normal household items and he's the MacGyver of D&D. He really is.
I love that title, MacGyver of D&D.
Because he'll take just like random stuff and he'll make this amazing terrain out of it. So go watch his stuff. I said amazing stuff. Don't look at that. He makes like a lot cooler stuff.
Donald Sutherland peeking out of the egg.
I just recently rewatched that movie. That's a classic.
It is. And it had been years since I'd seen it. And I think about 2 years ago, we watched it again. It was actually when I was making that. We watched it again. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how awesome that movie was. It still holds up today.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
It looks good. The story's great. The acting's fantastic.
So that's another video we could do is like classic movies we enjoy.
The star Donald Sutherland?
That would be a short episode. Dun, 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 dun. But anyway.
Yeah, that's my go-to style or favorite thing about crafting. Is today I know the 3D printing is real popular.
Yeah.
And that stuff looks beautiful, but my personal satisfaction, I prefer to try to make something from as much of nothing as possible. Like, sometimes I have to go and buy stuff. Sometimes I have to have glue. Sometimes I need some craft sticks. Sometimes I run out of paint. I have to go pick up some paint. So sometimes I need some supplies, but I try to make things with as minimal resources as possible. That for me, that's the fun in it.
Well, that's like I'm going to piss off more people. What do you think of that? To me, like people who make stuff with like the 3D printer is like McDonald's compared to like going to like a mom and dad restaurant. Anyone, if you have a 3D printer, anyone can make something that looks good. And so maybe that's not McDonald's, but you get the analogy. So
yeah, but you've just alienated half your audience, pal.
Yeah. I'm going to keep going until nobody is watching these videos. Nobody. But you know what I mean? People like pull out like the stuff that they made with a 3D printer and it's like, oh, it looks great. But like 50 people can make that same miniature or that same terrain and it'll look great for all of them.
Yeah, that's what you mean.
Or like people who make their own stuff, you can sit there and say like, it looks great. And maybe it doesn't look as great, but I had the fun process of making it. And that's something with somebody with a 3D printer can never have.
Yeah. And of course you're always learning too. So like my first building I made with a popsicle box, I still have it. It's about 7 feet over that direction actually in my little cabinet. It looks okay for a first time ever trying to make something like that, but I've made several buildings since then, and it's just neat. It's neat to just nobody knows it but me, but to know that process that I've went through over the years. How I can make a window now compared to my first window. Those kind of things.
Okay. Yeah, we should do an episode on like just some of the stuff that you made over the years. Like those
I
little
should do an episode on like all the crappy stuff I made, like the first of
like those
everything.
like little like cowboy houses. Those are amazing, dude. The
Yeah,
little
my
frontier.
my first one's right over
Yeah.
there.
Thanks, Santa.
Ho 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 ho!
We need to get you like a hat for like the Christmas
And
episodes.
that's a great idea. And I wear a red sweater.
Yep.
Hmm.
I draw the line at sitting on your lap though. That's just weird.
Ho ho ho!
Anyway, I think we rambled on long enough.
Or have we?
Ah, let me tell you about my trip to the hospital where they removed removed my liver. Everybody wants to watch that. Woohoo!
So, what's on your agenda for this week?
Writing. I'm going to be writing. Still working on my next book. Um, I'm trying to put together. I have a World Anvil account, and I'm trying to put together like the maps for our game, the game that I run that you play in. I'm trying to reassemble those maps in like a better place. Because where you guys are at now, you guys can ramble around like wherever you want. And oh my gosh,
I disappeared. Oh my gosh.
what is that?
I have to keep this in front of my face so you can see it. There's no way you can see this. I'm just giving you a visual aid, is all this is. This is my thief. I drew up another character in
Hmm.
case our players decide to stay in the populated area. If they
Hmm.
do, my barbarian is going to go elsewhere, and I've got a thief on backup just in case. So
Okay.
that way I've got
Well,
I've got a variety of characters for our game.
okay. Well, also too, during I think if I recall, you guys were going to leave. You guys were going to leave Carrollsburg, and you were going to start like wandering around the countryside, which is why I'm putting up like all these like maps of like little towns. So
Nice.
you guys can just wander wherever. You can go back to the castle of Blackwood Moors, now on sale, or you can just go to or you can like wander around. I'm gonna put up like maybe maps for like maybe like 10 different towns, and you guys can choose where the heck you guys want to go. Because I
Well,
don't want to railroad you guys at all.
um, I'll pull this statement out maybe for a segment somewhere. Or maybe I'll leave it in here, or maybe do both. But I've got to say this. I don't think I've ever said this to you, where other people might have the chance to hear me say it to you. But I'm um, very impressed. Um, you know this part already, but when I was reading The Castle of Blackwood Moors for the first time and going through, there was one particular section I'd already figured out early on that once you get to the castle, this is not a typical, flowery fantasy, everybody's written one kind of story. Uh, a lot of intricacies and unique situations are in this story. So that could only come from the mind of I don't know if you'd like me to say your name. Yeah, David Kunkel.
Yeah, that's okay. But I hate tropes. If you've been playing like D&D, like as long as we have, you see so many like tropes, like the snarky elf, the snooty wizard, the thief named Darky McShadowpants who sits in the bar with his back to the wall. It's like, oh my gosh, you see these like same types of things over and over, you know? Oh, did I lose you? Hello?
Are you there?
Yep. What was the
We
last thing
lost
you
you. The
heard?
last thing we heard you say was you hate tropes.
Oh, yeah, I hate tropes like the arrogant elf, the snobby wizard, the thief named Darky McShadowpants who sits with his back to the wall in the tavern. you see this stuff over and over, and players still do this stuff to this day. The abandoned, and so this was my version of the trope. Oh, the abandoned castle that you have to go to discover all the treasure. And I was like, how can I turn this trope on its head? And that's one of the reasons Castle Blackwood Morris came around, because I just, like I said, we've been playing games for like so long. You see the same stuff over and over and over. And last episode we played Curse of Strahd, and I think one of the reasons, sorry again, Wizards, one of the reasons that was like such a forgettable game is it's just one big trope fest, and I hate seeing. I want to see new things,
Yeah. Well, the point and reason I brought that up at all was because I want to commend you as your authorship. I want to commend that because you are very good at putting in that creep factor. You was really good at it when you did your fantasy book, Castle of Blackwood Moors, and where I really noticed it big time, and I was actually creeped out, was, well, I won't give anything away in the book, but there's a particular creature in a basement, and the way you describe it is really disturbing. And I thought, wow, he really can write this stuff, because I'm actually creeped out by reading this part of the book. And so when I found out that you were doing the post-apocalyptic horror, I was very happy to hear that, because you definitely are able to do that. So
well, thanks.
Thumbs up, man. Thumbs up.
I don't know. I don't.
And you love the sci-fi stuff, so you put those two things together, which for you is a great fit.
Mad Overlords don't take compliments very well. So piss off, Tracy.
Well, and you suck. There you go.
I do. But anyway, I think we've rambled on long enough this week.
Very well. I'll probably chop this up into maybe three different shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we did ramble on about like a ton of different stuff.
Oh yeah, man. We hit so many topics. We can have. I can burn this baby for a while.
Okay. Please do. That way, if we have tons of stuff to talk about.
Excellent. Hey, what time is it there?
It's getting early. It's like quarter after 6
p.m.
a.m.
Oh, that's right, a.m. because it's almost midnight here. You're about 6 hours ahead.
Yep.
All right. Hey, do you have any cheesy thing that you say all the time in closing? Like, for instance, I always do that cheesy keep your books off the table, keep reaching for the dice.
I
say,
have a go-to? Stay mad, be good.
That's right, stay mad. All right, well, stay mad and get some rest.
Yep. Well, you get some rest. It's midnight there.
I guess, if you're going to stay up the rest of the day.
Yeah. I just woke up from my game with Jim Ward. Oh my gosh, playing Gamma World with Jim Ward is like a dream come true.
Wow, so for you, that was at like what, 3 a.m?
We started at my time in Central Time. We played from 11 to 3, so that was like 7 a.m. to 11 at night for me.
Oh my!
Or yeah, 7 p.m. to 11. Did I say a.m.? Sorry, I don't even remember what I said. 7 p.m.
That's okay.
to.
You're Ukrainian. You don't speak English that well.
Oh my gosh, I'm American and I don't speak English well. Dun 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 dun. Wah.
Quack, quack, wow, wow, wow.
Okay, but anyway, that's it. We're done.
All right. Awesome chat. Get some rest, and I'll see you later.
My eyes are starting to sweat.
Put that pizza in the fridge.
No way, I'm going to finish it. It's breakfast. It was dinner last night, and it's breakfast today. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh. Hello?